Ever feel like tech interviews are kind of like a video game, you know?
Oh, yeah.
You're going through levels, answering questions, feeling good, then bam,
It's like surprise.
coding challenge, boss fight.
Right. You
Exactly.
got to be ready.
And it's like in a game, you wouldn't like show up without the right gear,
Right.
right?
You got to come prepared. And that's what today's deep dive is all about. We're tackling coding challenges, and we've got some seriously relevant intel for you.
Because, get this, a whopping 85% of tech companies are using these things now.
85. It's like the norm now, straight from the World Insider article, The Ultimate Guide to Coding Challenges, September 22nd, fresh off the press.
So whether you're actively job hunting or just, curious about leveling up your coding game, this is for you.
Because here's the thing, this goes way beyond just interview prep. It's about pushing your skills, becoming a more, I guess, well-rounded programmer.
Yeah. Like, what does that actually look like, though? I mean, is it like a bunch of abstract puzzles, or is it more practical?
They can be both, honestly. Sometimes it's about, like, nailing that sorting algorithm. Other times it's like, okay, design a mini Facebook, the whole shebang.
Whoa, okay, so from algorithms to, like, full-blown systems design, that's a range.
Right. And what's really interesting is that now, some of these challenges, they're even letting you use AI tools.
Oh, wow. AI encoding challenges. Okay, hold on. We got to unpack that.
It's a game changer for sure. But is it cheating or is it the future? We'll get into that.
Okay, so we've established coding challenges. They're important. But let's break it down. What are we talking about here? Give me the lowdown.
So think of it like a workout, but for your coding brain.
I like that.
You're given a problem, limited resources, maybe even a ticking clock.
Oh, the pressure's on.
And you've got to figure out the most efficient solution.
So it's not just about getting it to work, but about getting it to work, like, elegantly.
Exactly. Like choosing the right data structure can be the difference between a program that runs smoothly
Yeah.
and one that just chugs.
Especially with, like, huge amounts of data, right?
Huge. And that's something these challenges really drill into you.
Makes sense. So it's like training for a coding marathon then, huh?
Exactly. And just like you might show off your marathon training, these challenges can really beef up your portfolio.
Okay, so how does that work?
Platforms like GitHub, they're like your public coding journal. You share your solutions, how you approach the problem. It's way more interesting than just saying, I'm good at problem solving on a resume.
Right, show, don't tell. I like it.
Exactly. Plus, there's this whole community aspect too. Like, imagine online coder gym buddies, cheering each other on, sharing tips. It's kind of cool.
I love that. Little coding camaraderie. Okay, but let's be real. Coding challenges can be intimidating. Where do we even begin?
So there's not just one type of challenge, right? Some are like, here's a tricky algorithm, figure it out. Others are like, build a mini Instagram.
Wow. Okay, so from the very specific to the very broad.
Exactly. And that's where choosing the right platform comes in.
Oh, so you're saying it's not just one size fits all.
Not at all. We'll dig into the pros and cons of different platforms later, but the article specifically called out HackerRank, LeetCode, and wait for it, Code Wars.
Code Wars. Okay, that one I got to hear more about.
Right. Think like coding challenges, but gamified. You level up, earn ranks. It's wild.
Oh, I'm all about a little gamification. Makes the learning process way more fun.
Way more. And speaking of shaking things up, we were talking about AI earlier.
Yeah, the whole AI and coding challenges thing. Still wrapping my head around that.
So get this, the Reply Code Challenge, they're letting people use AI as part of the competition.
No way. Like, AI writing the code for them? How does that even work?
Well, not exactly. It's more like having a super-powered coding buddy. Like, imagine an AI that can analyze data for you, suggest code snippet
Like a really smart autocomplete.
on steroids. It's a whole new way of thinking about coding, and it's definitely sparking some debate. Some people are like, hey, that's not real coding,
Yeah.
while others are embracing it.
Yeah, that's a whole other deep dive right there.
Totally. But it does make you wonder, what does this mean for the future of coding?
Right. Like, are we all going to be working with AI coding assistants soon?
Maybe. But one thing's for sure, being able to leverage these tools, these new technologies, that's going to be crucial moving forward.
Okay, so we've talked platforms, we've talked AI, but at the end of the day, it all comes down to skills, right? Like, how do you actually approach a coding challenge strategically?
Let's get into it.
So how do you go from, like, okay, I get it, to actually crushing these challenges? What's the secret sauce?
Well, first things first, don't just start coding blindly.
Oh, really? Because my approach is usually just like, dive right in and hope for the best.
Yeah, about that. The article actually calls that out as a major no-no.
Okay, fair enough. So what should we be doing instead?
Think of it like baking a cake. You wouldn't just chuck all the ingredients in a bowl and pray, right?
Well, I mean, I've tried that before.
And how'd that turn out?
Let's just say it wasn't pretty.
Right. You need a recipe, a plan. Same goes for coding.
Okay, so like what does that look like? Coding blueprints
Kind of.
Mhm.
Before you even think about syntax, you got to break down the problem.
into like bite-sized pieces.
Exactly. What's the input? What's the output? Are there any weird edge cases that could trip you up?
Edge cases, those are the worst.
The worst. But planning for them up front, it saves you headaches later. Trust me.
Okay, so we've got our plan, we're feeling good, but then there's the actual coding part. Any tips on like writing code that's not just functional but impressive?
Oh, absolutely. One of the best things you can do, especially starting out, is study other people's solutions.
Wait, like copy their code? Is that allowed?
Not copy pasting, no. But a lot of these platforms, they have discussion sections.
Mhm.
People share their approaches.
Oh, I see. So it's more about learning from the pros, seeing how they think.
Exactly. You pick up on different techniques, elegant solutions, stuff you might not have thought of.
It's like having a peek into the minds of coding masters.
Totally. And then there's the time crunch.
Ugh, don't even get me started on the time pressure.
The worst.
Aha.
Right. You know your stuff, but that clock starts ticking.
Total brain freeze. It's like all the code just evaporates from my memory.
Happens to the best of us. One tip the article mentioned is practice with a timer.
Oh, so you build up that like mental stamina.
Exactly. And if you're running short on time during a challenge, prioritize.
Like what's the bare minimum I need to get working?
Exactly. It's about making strategic decisions under pressure.
So much strategy involved. It's like coding chess.
Right. But here's the thing. It's not just about the technical stuff. The article made a big deal about soft skills.
Soft skills, like what? Being a good communicator. I thought that was optional in the tech world.
Not at all. You could write the most brilliant code, but if you can't explain it, it's like, what's the point?
Oh, I see. Like you got to be able to bridge the gap between code and human understanding.
Exactly. And being able to learn quickly, adapt to new tech, that's huge.
Which makes sense because this industry changes like every 5 minutes, it feels like.
Right. And those coding challenges, they actually help with that adaptability.
Oh, how so?
They throw different problems at you, different constraints. You're constantly stretching your skill set.
So it's like cross-training for your coding brain. I like it. But there's one part of coding, I gotta be honest, I dread.
Oh, yeah. What's that?
Debugging. It's like the bane of my existence.
Really, so many people say that. But honestly, it's an art form.
If you say so.
I'm serious. Debugging. It's like being a code detective. You're on the hunt for clues.
I guess I never thought about it that way. I'm always so frustrated when I have to debug.
But think about it. The more you debug, the better your code gets from the start.
Oh, so it's like preventative coding, in a way.
Exactly. And it goes hand in hand with writing clean code, which is super important.
Clean code. Everyone talks about it, but what does that actually mean?
Imagine someone else has to read your code.
Oh, no. The thought sends shivers down my spine.
Right. Clean code is like easy to understand, even if it's complex, like a well-organized library.
Okay, so instead of a jumbled mess of code, it's more like, what, a beautifully organized, color-coded spreadsheet.
There you go. And one of the simplest ways to up your clean code game is just using good names.
For your variables and stuff?
Exactly. Instead of like X and Y, call it user input or calculate result. It seems small,
Yeah.
but it makes a world of difference.
Right, because then you're not just trying to decipher the code itself, you're trying to decipher what your past self even meant in the first place.
Exactly. And don't be afraid to use comments. But like good comments, not
Oh.
just stating the obvious.
Oh, so like not just this line of code does this thing.
No. Use comments to explain your thought process, especially if it's a tricky part. It's like leaving clues for the next person who reads your code.
Or clues for yourself, like 6 months down the line when you have no idea what you wrote.
Exactly. But at the end of the day, remember, there's no one right way to write clean code.
It's more about finding what works for you.
Totally. It's about developing those good coding instincts,
Mhm.
turning code from functional to, dare I say, elegant.
Okay, I like that. So we've covered a ton of ground here, but I'm curious, like zooming out a bit, what's the bigger picture with these coding challenges? Where does it all lead?
You know, it's interesting to think about. These challenges, they're not just assessing skills, they're kind of shaping the way we code as an industry.
Oh, interesting. I never thought about it that way.
Right. Like, think about it. The kinds of problems they focus on, the solutions they reward, it all feeds back into how code gets written in the real world.
So it's like these challenges are little engines of coding evolution.
Exactly. And when you add in AI, the focus on real-world applications, it really makes you wonder where we're headed.
It's like, are we going to see a future where coding challenges are just integrated into everything?
Maybe. What if instead of dreading them, they became just another part of how we learn and work?
Like coding brain teasers throughout the day?
Exactly. Little challenges to keep your skills sharp.
I could get behind that. It's like a gym membership, but for your coding muscles.
Right. And imagine if those challenges were tied to real projects.
Oh, wow. So instead of just abstract problems, it's like, here, help us optimize this renewable energy grid.
Exactly. It's like gamifying real-world problem solving.
Okay, that's a future I can get excited about.
Right. And honestly, we're already seeing pieces of it come together.
Mm.
Platforms like GitHub, they're all about collaborative coding, solving problems together.
It's like this global community of coders all working toward like a common goal. That's pretty powerful stuff.
It really is. And it just goes to show, no matter your skill level, there's a place for you in this world.
Love that. Well said. And on that note, we're reaching the end of our deep dive into the world of coding
It's
challenges.
been fun.
Totally. To all our listeners, thanks for joining us. Remember, embrace the challenge, keep learning, and who knows, maybe you'll write the code that changes everything.